So as you start to be in live action and you notice that you're really nice, and the next person comes along and you're taking offense, that can be a clue if you were aware that you took offense. That is your limitations. These are the things your soul is asking you. Can you heal it now? You couldn't do it then. Still have an attraction factor to have that alignment, to see that kind of person, to be repeating how you responded to this person before. But is it true that you want to do this? And if you're just looking through your face, which is another glossary term, yeah. But if you were to observe yourself being in the moment, you're going to say, no, it makes me look really ugly. And you have to wake up to what's being going on. And so as you begin to wake up, you start to notice, oh my gosh, I'm being gaslit. One person says, I'm tired of being gaslit. Another person, oh, or you don't look at what you need to work on for yourself. Yes, because you can't see it unless you look in a mirror. And because nobody else walks around just with mirrors, meaning like this, there's a mirror, which is dirty. We walk around like this, but we look like this. And what we don't notice is the mirror effect, is that my inner world is creating my outer world. I can only show up to you only how I know that I've experienced, understood the emotion, understood how it felt. Maybe my safety, security, stability, sanity, serenity, and space, which is freedom, have been compromised. They're out of balance. And so I'm going to see you as the enemy. Because if I'm just being human, not my spiritual part, but just being human, I'm going to be in the overidentification of what hurt me. And I'm going to be living by this overidentification, and it's going to be fragments of the soul. And so fragmentively, I'm going to be looking and feeling and being this particular personality, while my soul over here is going, okay, that's what they're doing. But then when you wake up and your soul's urge is saying, okay, we need to be really over here, but you're still stuck way back here. And when you start to hear with your heart, and when you start to hear these higher vibrations, you can go, oh my goodness, you can become more aware. I just yelled and screamed. Boy, that felt good, says the ego. And spirit goes, and soul says, you can heal it now. How about now? You still want to keep giving your life force away to this? And you don't realize what that means is that karma is a cause and effect. No matter what, it's always happening. But the spiritual karma that you can't see is more of like an echo, which if you treat somebody badly and you don't get it back immediately, it's because how many times does it take until you see it, your spiritual self, to see it? And then all of a sudden, you see the behavior in somebody else, and you're like, oh, yeah, see, you shouldn't do that. But you still didn't see it for yourself. So the mirror is showing that's a one ring out or two rings out. But when you get caught on the video or you're on a recording, that is something that can wake you up. And so one of the jobs is that I tell people is to video record when you know that you think you're right, or you have right behavior or healthy behavior. And if you record yourself, you're going to look back at it. And if you look back at it through the ego, you're going to go, oh, what? And you're like, that was brilliant. That was good. Remember, looking through the ego, electromagnetic guiding omni apparition, mean you over identified with matter. Now you are that matter, and everything matters, and you have to protect, and you have to go through all these emotions. But when you look at it through your spirit, you're witnessing, going, I just yelled and screamed. I threw out energy. I did it to what? Hurt them because they hurt you? or that you need to correct them because they are wrong, or, so when you're looking at the mirror, one of the things I ask is, okay, so you just lost power in that moment to that person. Who is that person? And an ego, well, it's them. And you're like holding back because you're still being that personality. Your body's going to say, oh, I'm all upset. So it's going to feel like you have to do the right thing by not speaking up, or maybe you are speaking up, but it is energy. You're either going to be passive or very aggressive. And your body will start coughing or aching or hurting because you are trying to do the right thing, or you don't realize that you and the body are one. And but here is the thing: to really decide if you really want to take your spirituality further so that you become a spiritual human, you need to begin to address these conditioned personalities and their particular patterns. Okay, they're unconscious. Why are they unconscious? How did they become unconscious? Because you didn't know what was going on when you were, 0 through 7, and you thought, okay, that's how you act. You may go, oh, I don't want to act like that. But then in a pinch and you have a situation, you're going to recall that, and you're probably going to act that way without knowing. You may think that you're using different words or you a different approach. The huge part was when I asked Spirit to help me to grow. And there is my kids, and I'm watching the behavior of, somebody, my family, and I'm looking at how the people interacted with my kids, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't like that, right? But I wasn't an ego. It was, I don't want to act that way again. I took accountability, knowing that certain words, certain physical actions, certain things can hurt love. Because I asked Spirit, I said, what is love? What really is love? And I'm sitting in a restaurant with my family, and I'm watching how my kids are behaving very well. And all of a sudden, somebody was complaining, well, keep your kids quiet. And they were very quiet. And I'm looking at them because they're being quiet. I gave them something. They're playing. They're not running up and down the aisles. They're not raising their voice. They're giggling quietly. They know how to do all that. And pure love was happening. But the person I was with was very upset, was worrying about something, was on their mind, and they could not cope, handle, and deal with the love. It was too noisy. It was too much. And as Spirit showing me this, and all of a sudden I'm watching that they are supposed to shut down that love so this person I'm with can feel better. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do that to my kids. I don't want to do this at all. I want to know that I'm not shutting down love. And I would catch that I was shutting down love. I was catching all of these things. And I'm thinking, all right, Spirit, you need to help me understand how to change this, not spiritually bypass this. And so I spent a lot of time working on very specific emotions with specific patterns and specific things. And I would catch myself and I'd call my energy back. I just like, okay, I don't need to keep receiving this abuse. I don't need to give this abuse because the vector, the direction, the intensity needs to be really addressed. Okay. So you got to decide if you're going to be all in your head. Here I am, very spiritual, but inside you're stewing and brewing, going, grr. You're happy, but you're going, grr, dread, hate. Grr. Everybody says, stop using the word hate. Oh, but if you're not in love, then you are only in the fear category. And when you are being negative, it's going to fall under the hate category. And you don't know anybody is around. You've had it. You've had enough. You're done, done, done. But if you keep processing, you can still be done without having to lose power. You can, yeah, I notice it's glitching and lagging because my lips don't match as I'm talking. I don't understand it. But anyway, that's also, it could be a metaphor because different personalities, different perspectives, different people watching you are going to notice that you're out of sync with your soul. Some people are going to go, oh my gosh, they're spiritual bypassing. Oh my God, they think there's so much that, and they're not even close to being that. Look how nasty they are. Look at this. Look at that. So what if you are doing your spirituality and you're doing it and this and that? But I have seen people be readers and they're doing light and love. And the next thing you know, they're like, oh, did you see that asshole? Blah, 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 blah. First of all, the attraction factor. Why would your soul show you your alignment? It didn't make it happen. The universe didn't force it. You're out of alignment with love, so you're going to line up with the very thing that's caused you to lose your life force. You have 100% of life force. That's all you get. And if you keep investing it in these negative unconscious programs or unresolved continued stories, I think you know what I'm talking about. Are you going to get sick and hold back because you don't know how to speak up, or you don't know how to defend yourself, or you don't know how to do certain things? Those are all asking for your growth. I've had many people, as I begin to grow into my confidence, my way of being, and who I want to be, I first have to understand the templates to what I'm seeing. Did I want to be alpha? Well, that's what I was taught. But I can't. Well, do that means I have to be beta, passive, take it, or use passive aggressive to get my point across because that's the only safe way of doing it. But none of those can be in your spiritual growth. Sigma, integration, unity, applying your wisdom. When you are, somebody says, the negative things, question the negative things or people around you. Yes, because the environment that is in your space, the people, all of it can be very toxic. But do you need to have authority over that? That's why you see it. So you can have authority, be in control. That fear is telling you have to control. You have to control the outcome. You know their behavior. You're going to control the outcome. You're going to use sleight of mouth. You're going to use manipulation tools. You're going to be, but there is going to be a karmic kickback. Yes, it may be not right away. It will always be right away, but you may not see a very particular level. But if you keep doing something so far out of whack and the energy becomes very lopsided, depending on which way it's going in yin and yang, you will then have to decide to recall your power. And most people don't. It's not a common practice, but it should be. Because your energy you throw out there, and some people will trip and fall. Some people will get hurt. Yes, your energy can dominate a room, bleed on people, hurt others.